Good evening to everyone. Welcome to all the new learners. My name is Cheyenne. I'll be your trainer for this qualification in mental health. The unit we're covering is CHCMHS008, Promote and Facilitate Self-Advocacy, Session 2. So during the first part of the session, I'll do a bit of a summary of the learning outcomes for this unit, for this session in particular. The second half, I'll cover one of the assessments. And for the last hour, I will probably play a recording of a role play, or maybe I might do something different today. I might play the pre-recording of this session where I talk to the screen and cover all the learning outcomes for this session. So just before we start, I just want to show some recognition for the traditional owners of the land. So in the spirit of reconciliation, Hattah Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connection to land, sea, and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live, and study. We express our gratitude to the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual, and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respects to all First Nations people and acknowledge elders past, present, and emerging. Okay, self-advocacy. So Vicky would have covered the session 1 as I was off last week, but just another recap of what self-advocacy is. So it's about empowering individuals to speak up for their own needs, rights, and preferences. It's a process of taking control over decisions that directly impact an individual's life, whether those decisions involve things like education, health, work, or personal relationships. For example, a person advocating for themselves in a medical setting might express their concerns clearly by asking questions about their treatment options and ensure their choices are respected. But self-advocacy goes beyond just about speaking up. It's about understanding yourself and your needs. It requires self-awareness, knowing your strengths, recognizing your limitations, and being confident in communicating them effectively. It also involves taking responsibility for seeking out the resources and the support that is required for the clients to succeed. The importance of self-advocacy cannot be overstated. First, it builds confidence by reinforcing an individual's sense of self-worth. Guys, can I just ask you guys to stay on mute while I'm speaking, and when you chime in and answer some questions, then you can unmute yourself, please. So it involves taking responsibility for seeking out the resources and support needed to succeed. I lost my train of thought now. One sec. It also strengthens their belief in their ability to make differences and ensures they feel heard and valued during the process. Another point when it comes to self-advocacy, it fosters independence. That's what we want in the end, for our clients to be independent. It teaches individuals to navigate the complex systems like healthcare, education, or the workplace, and in their own terms. By advocating for their own rights, people will learn to take control of their own lives, leading to greater autonomy. Finally, self-advocacy develops resilience. So life is full of challenges, as we all know, and the ability to assert oneself and overcome barriers is a very important tool for facing those challenges that arise. So advocating for oneself not only resolves immediate issues, but also builds the skills and the mindset that is required to handle future obstacles in a more effective manner. Okay, so I just got a question for the group. Why is self-advocacy an important skill for individuals, especially in overcoming challenges related to mental health or personal circumstances? Rainy?
I think you pretty much answered it. It empowers the person to build that resilience back and feel that like they're taking control back in their life, and they've actually they're being a contributing member to society, and getting rid of this, and they're not just because last week, we learn a bit about stigma and the stigma around mental health services and stuff, and I think being able to promote self advocacy to clients is a big step in someone's recovery.
Excellent. Yeah. So, yeah, it is very important, like you said, because it empowers individuals to take control of their lives by expressing their needs, their goals, and also their concerns as well. They've got to be able to raise concerns confidently.
And the thing is, I guess with being able to advocate for yourself, it then allows you to branch out and be able to advocate for others, and other groups or community organizations that you might be involved with, and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. It fosters confidence, like you said, as the individual will feel heard and validated, and then if they're capable in helping other people as well. Excellent. Kurt?
Yeah, giving them the tools and confidence to keep going out there on their own, improving and living the best way possible.
Perfect. Excellent. Catherine?
Yeah, I think it's also, if we're giving them information and knowledge, then that's also helping them to understand what's going on for them at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So it promotes independence. Like you said, you- they're able to learn how to navigate things like complex systems and also make informed decisions. Alona?
Promoting awareness as well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Thank you, guys. We'll just go on to the next one. All right. So let's just go through this. So to understand the current landscape of mental health advocacy in Australia, it's important to reflect on the historical context and some key milestones. I covered this a lot in the pre-recording. Like I said, I'll play that towards the end of our session. So the first significant report that shaped mental health advocacy was the Richmond Report of 1983. So this report introduced the concept of deinstitutionalization, emphasizing the importance of moving away from large psychiatric hospitals and integrating individuals with mental health challenges into the communities they live in. It highlighted the need for more community-based care, enabling people to remain in the local environment while also receiving support in the same time. So this shift was not just about the logistics, but also about respecting the rights and the dignity of these individuals suffering from mental health. So building on this foundation, there was another report called the Burdekin Report. This came out in the 1990s, as you can see on the screen, further examined the state of mental health care in Australia. Burdekin also runs a youth care facility in Australia, in Sydney at the moment as well. I think they've been running for about 20 or 30 odd years. It uncovered widespread human rights violations experienced by individuals with mental illness. The report exposed systematic discrimination and also neglect, especially against vulnerable groups such as our First Nations people, children, and those in rural or isolated areas. It called for a more inclusive and right-based approach to mental health support. So why were these reports so important? The impact of these reports were profound. So they not only changed public perception of mental health, but also laid the groundwork for recovery-oriented frameworks. These frameworks focus on the principles of choice, so individual choice, resilience, and human rights, aligning with the broader goals of inclusion into society. Instead of isolating individuals, the focus shifted towards empowering them to participate in a more effective way in the communities that they live in. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about health advocacy and how it plays a vital role in supporting individuals with mental health challenges, particularly within the framework of NDIS, so the National Disability Insurance Scheme. The NDIS is designed as a recovery-focused package. You guys will all be aware of the NDIS. It's not just about addressing immediate needs, but also about supporting long-term personal growth and recovery. The program helps individuals achieve their personal goals, or it aims to, whether that's gaining independence, returning to work or study, or improving their quality of life. One of the key features of NDIS is its flexibility to allow for reassessments and appeals. So this ensures that the program evolves with individuals' changing needs. For instance, if a participant's circumstance changes over time, or they feel the plan doesn't fully meet what they are looking for, they can request a review or make adjustments to better align with their recovery journey. Now, there are some key roles with the NDIS ecosystem, and they are two main roles: the plan manager and the support coordinators. Now, these roles ensure that participants can effectively navigate the system and access the support they need. So when it comes to the plan manager, they handle the financial side of things when it comes to NDIS. So they look after the budget, pay the service providers for their services, and ensure that the claims are processed correctly. When it comes to the support coordinators, they're more therapeutic. So they focus on connecting participants with the services and the providers that they require. They help arrange assessments, manage service agreements, and ensure that participants are linked to community and also mainstream services that align with their particular needs. So together, these two roles create a comprehensive support system to help individuals navigate the NDIS effectively and make the most of the opportunities it provides. Although it's worth mentioning, there's still a long way to go with NDIS. There's a lot of shortfalls, a lot of waiting times as well, but this is a positive as well. They do good things, although they do not cover the whole spectrum. Advocacy within the NDIS isn't just about accessing services. It's also about empowering individuals to take control of their journey. That's what we want them to do, to take control of their own lives and the recovery journey, ensuring their voices are heard, and enabling them to make the informed decisions about their own individual circumstances. So the question there, how does the NDIS support individuals with mental health challenges in achieving their recovery goals? How does the NDIS support individuals with mental health challenges in achieving their recovery goals? Catherine?
Sorry, couldn't find my unmute. Probably not answering that question directly, but I don't know how people find in other states, but we find in Queensland it's really difficult to get onto the NDIS for mental health. So, you know, those goals are really great, but gee, it's really difficult to get people onto NDIS to get access to those supports. Do other states find that as well?
From my knowledge and experience, Queensland has in terms of NDIS housing, is the highest. They provide the most NDIS housing. So I'm assuming for some reason, Queensland has one of the highest amounts of clients if going through NDIS. That's probably why the service delivery is a bit slower in Queensland. Although it's a national scheme, so they should have the scope to provide for everybody in a timely manner. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the reasons. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because we find just trying to get people accepted onto the NDIS, let alone coordinating their services once they're on, but just getting them approved for the scheme is really, very laborious.
Yeah. So I'm trying to run a program in Melbourne at the moment. I've got a group home and I've got clients in there who still haven't got their funding as well. So for the program. So yeah, it's a nationwide problem. But I think in Queensland it's a bit higher because of the demand. Sam?
Yeah, I'm fairly new to the whole mental health area, but I thought I might give a crack at the question. And with the NDIS, it sounds like with any mental health service, they would help self-advocate, and that would include coming up with goals in the first place and helping them articulate what that might be, because a lot of people who do require mental health help, they would struggle with that type of articulation and knowing what they want. They're just suffering. So but yeah, it sounds like there are, like you said, a lot of shortfalls in when it comes to the NDIS. So I wouldn't be too familiar with the whole process.
Yeah, thank you. Tony?
Hi, everyone. Just to answer Catherine's question, I'm from South Australia, and I'm also a consumer of the mental health system. The NDIS here is actually very hard to get into and onto in the first place. There's about 5 assessments that you go through, as long as the big brochure or pamphlet, as I call it, of written information you've got to give them. I know for a fact that there's about nearly a 4-year waiting list here in South Australia to get onto NDIS. And that is even with psychological reports, psychiatric reports, hospital visits. Just my wait alone, it's been 3 years to get onto the NDIS, and I've been accessing disability services for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
So that's just to go show Catherine that I find that the NDI system has a lot of loopholes that you can sort of get onto it with the right people for the wrong reasons. And then there's other people that really need to access that support that don't have their advocacies and things like that to help them, that are totally missing out on packages and stuff like that, are really being depersonalized because of what the system takes to get onto.
Yeah. Sorry to hear about your situation, but you're absolutely right about the fact that a lot of people are taking advantage of the NDIS, and unfortunately there's a lot of people who actually need assistance who are falling through the cracks, and their assessments and applications are being delayed.
Yeah.
So it's a shame, but hopefully they find the resolution for it quickly. I know they're looking into it now, or they have been for the last 12 months. But we all know how the government operates, very slowly. So
yeah, no, I think it's just that crackdown they need just to for those that sort of really eligibly need that help, and then others that can put in the paperwork and just find a loophole and go, I've got NDIS. And it's like,
yeah. And
wow,
it's
okay.
also, there's a lot of service providers who are doing the wrong things as well, who are not
Yeah.
providing the services, but they're claiming funding for NDIS.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for that, Tony.
That's right. Thank you.
Mickey?
Yeah, firstly, I'm very sorry to hear that because be honest with you, I don't know too much about NDIS, but in order to answer your question, I think firstly, how does the NDIS help with those people with mental health? Firstly, I think you mentioned something about accommodation and the funding, which, like you said, they offer the support for the housing and the supported accommodation, which is one way. And second, for my knowledge, for NDIS, they do provide individualized support for recovery because due to the different type of trauma and different individual like life experience, the NDIS, I think they offer very personalized support plans based on individual's goal, needs, and level of, like, say, traumatization. And for all those kind of support, sometimes I would say it's included but not limited to, like, say, daily living, like, say, employment, skill development, something like that. And also, I think they do offer the funding for the therapies and also other aligned health services, like, say, like psychological, like the lady just mentioned, the psychological or counseling, sometime, and the other therapies. And I think India is also like funded for those type of services. And last, I think also they kind of offer, I'm not sure, but I do think they support for the employment and sometimes like for the education as well. Like, say, sometimes maybe for the people, they offer the service of job coaching and also training and skill development as well. I think that's for whatever I have gathered from my past experience. Yeah.
Very comprehensive answer. Perfect. They provide all that, but again, there's a shortfall because they can't reach all the participants. But excellent answer. I'll take one more. Alona?
My son is an NDIS consumer.
Yeah.
So I think we are just lucky because I'm here in South Australia anyway, but he's being granted probably after more than 6 months. Because we have really good local coordinator, and she's really fantastic. Really, really fantastic and very supportive. And I think it was easy for me. I mean, because almost like she's the one who's doing the job. Because I need assistance. Because my son is autism spectrum. So I just have only what we did is to go through from school, from the GP, from child pediatrician. We did the assessment for his autism, and having the interview with him by the local coordinator. And I was just surprised that I received that we're being granted. Unfortunately, I applied for like occupational therapists here in the region. Until now, since last year, I never heard anything from them. And well, the pot money is there, but the only thing is like the specialist, it's really hard. And the only he avail with a therapy, with a counselor, because through the school.
Thank you, Alona.
Thanks.
Occupational therapists are very hard to find. There's a very big shortage Australia-wide for that role. So
Yes.
if you guys ever wanted to look into that role, as an occupational therapist and what you need to do to qualify, that's a very sought after position at the moment in Australia. All right, the role of community in advocacy. So as we all know, communities play a very important role in fostering advocacy and creating environments where individuals feel supported, valued, and empowered to thrive. They actually take a very big role in today's society, the communities, when it comes to self-advocacy and supporting people with mental health. Community support is foundational in advocacy efforts. It takes a lot of forms, such as organizing cultural workshops, hosting community events, and providing accessible resources. Now, these initiatives help to build a sense of belonging and also inclusion for the individual, especially for them who may feel isolated due to their mental health challenges or the social stigma. So, for example, cultural workshops can reconnect individuals with their heritage and promoting pride in their identity, and also fostering a personal growth. Another critical aspect of community advocacy is collaboration with local organizations and elders. So local organizations often serve as bridges between individuals and the resources that they require, whether that's mental health services, educational opportunities, or employment assistance. So working alongside, for example, elders in the Aboriginal community, they bring valuable cultural knowledge and guidance, especially for the young people. So ensuring that advocacy efforts are respectful, inclusive, and also effective. Collaboration between these groups helps address the barriers, the systematic barriers, and creates sustainable solutions. For instance, a partnership between a mental health organization and local schools can provide resources and also training to staff, equipping them to support their students' well-being more effectively. Also, community-driven initiatives that involve elders can offer mentorship programs, connecting younger generations to their cultural roots, and also helping them to foster resilience. To continue on this, communities can advocate on behalf of individuals also by amplifying their voices and advocating for policies, changes in a local level, state, or even nationwide. So that's the strength of a good community setting. Advocacy at the community levels ensure that the needs of all members are represented and met. Well, that's the aim, particularly those from marginalized or vulnerable groups. All right. We've got a case study. So I'm just going to read this out, guys. Sarah is a 7-year-old Aboriginal girl who was forcibly removed from her family during the stolen generation. A policy-driven period in Australia's history where thousands of Indigenous children were taken from their families under government and institutional practices. This removal was justified by assimilation policies that sought to integrate Aboriginal people into mainstream society, often at the expense of their cultural identity and family bonds or familiar bonds. Now, as an adult, Sarah faces significant emotional and psychological struggles that stem from the traumatic experience. She grapples with a pervasive sense of identity loss as her removal severed her connection to her cultural roots, language, and community. Without the guidance and traditions of her family and culture, she finds it difficult to define who she is and where she belongs. Sarah also struggles with feelings of insecurity and worthlessness. The removal at a young age conveyed an implicit message that her family and culture were not good enough. This has left her with long-term self-esteem issues, making it difficult for her to build trusting relationships or advocate for herself. These internalized feelings are compounded by a sense of abandonment and rejection that she has carried since childhood. In addition to her identity and self-esteem challenges, Sarah experiences difficulty maintaining healthy relationships. The trauma of the removal has left her wary of forming deep emotional connections as she feels further rejection or loss. This has impacted her ability to establish supportive personal and social networks, leaving her isolated and vulnerable. Guys, this is a very common issue amongst the Aboriginal community, especially for those the age between 50 and onwards. A lot of Aboriginal people who are in the age group 15 and over would have been affected from the stolen generation. So this is still very common in today's society, the aftermath and the effects of it. So the two questions I have are, how can understanding Sarah's cultural background support her healing? And what strategies can help Sarah reconnect with her culture and community? So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go away for 10 minutes. I'm going to turn my camera off and audio off. I'll get you guys to read over this, discuss the questions, have a general chit chat about the topic, and I'll come back and then we'll speak about your findings. Okay, I'll see you guys I'll give you guys 15 minutes.
Hi, Edward.
Hello.
Is everyone else going to turn off their microphones?
Hello.
Yeah, hi, Monica. Hi, Ben.
Hi there.
How are we?
Hi.
How is everyone today?
Bad yourselves.
That's good.
Hello. Hey, everyone.
Hi.
So I'm actually from a small community town, and it's actually very Aboriginal based. So I
Right.
sort of understand this fairly well.
Well, you can lead us, James, I
Yes,
think.
please.
Take it
So
away.
the number one thing is with the stolen generation, you're also looking at sexual assault. So that falls under a lot of it. The cultural disconnection is a really hard one, because if you don't really understand the culture, then it is a bit harder to actually help with that sort of thing. And that's why a lot of Aboriginal, like jobs to do with Aboriginals, are Aboriginal identified jobs. It does leave a very big gap in between, and generally when that's why a lot of 50 plus year olds are very heavy on alcohol or drugs. So we've got to keep in mind that they utilize these things to get away from the thought of what happened to them.
Are you saying they get pissed to forget about
not to forget, man. It's more to
Like
sort of
numb it.
deal
with
yes.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like
Numb the
cope,
pain.
moderate in some forms.
Yes. Like my wife is Aboriginal, and her mother was part of the stolen generation. And yeah, she abuses alcohol to sort of numb the pain. But she is getting a lot better, and so with the correct help, we can all flourish. We just need the correct help, and we can't just a lot of people make them feel like it's their problem because they were taken.
Yes.
So
the blame
that's
the
a
victim.
yeah, and that's where stigma comes into it as well. So I guess there is a really big amount of stigma towards the stolen generation.
Yeah, I was about to say, because my point that I was going to add in is I'm pretty sure I've read in a lot of articles about it that like a large majority of people that came from the stolen generation had that obvious feeling of one, hopelessness, but also feeling as if they are alienated, like an object in some sort of way.
Yes.
So when you learn to understand the cultural background of those people, it makes them feel more human, more conformed into society, more connected with society.
Validated.
Yes. It's quite so. See how they said a policy-driven period, that sought to integrate in Aboriginal people into the mainstream society. It's actual, like, think of that as the opposite. So yeah, what they did was completely the opposite of what they intended to do.
Yeah. All right.
If I may speak, I think a lot of it's got to do with people being unaware as well.
Yes.
I mean, I heard just recently a comment about, oh, whatever have back in 1800s, this. So there's that thing, right? It's a lot more recent than people realize.
Yes,
and
it is.
Then there's also the misunderstanding or the uneducation around generational trauma and how that has a huge impact. So
I think
a lot of people don't have the knowledge necessary to understand or even picture what this is all about.
Yeah.
Just listening and being open to listening, and then putting yourself in their shoes would really make a difference as well to them, and just hearing them.
Yes, correct. Well, as a young teenager, I actually used to work in an Aboriginal park. So we'd go around and we'd teach people what's edible, what's not edible, type of plants that you can make medicine out of, all that different types of stuff. So helping like with the culture, it does really help just get the knowledge out there, and that's a lot of what it falls back down to, just people needing the correct knowledge, not knowledge.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people also are either too far into it or too far out of it. And what I mean is they either don't care about it enough or they care about it too much to the point where either one, which side you pick, you're making them either, if you're picking the side that, all right, well, they don't matter, it doesn't care. Obviously, that's bad because you're not treating them like humans. But if you act in the way of, okay, we need to baby them, we need to like treat them as like because of what has happened in the past, it also alienates them because it feels like you're not treating them as
like a human being.
Yeah, mature human adults.
Yes.
Or just human beings in general. So I feel like surprisingly, it's just talking to them like you would with any other person.
Yep. That's correct, man. That is 100% correct. It also like
Hello.
Yes, hello.
I think Catherine's got a question.
No, I'm just sitting and nodding. That's all.
Sorry.
I think
it might have been.
Was it Mickey?
I was going to say, I think it was Mickey.
Okay.
I changed my computer. I'm not sure you guys can hear me.
Yes, sort of.
We can hear you,
but we can't see
thank
you.
Thank you. Because I just have been like listening to you guys. I want to participate, but I was like, why there's no one here? I was like, I just think like, sorry. I'll continue, guys. I'm really enjoying you guys' discussion. Continue, please.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So no, that was actually a really good point, Edward. It also falls back down to the damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of thing. Like what just happened with the 14-year-old getting that caused the accident. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't. Wait, what happened?
So there was a police chase from Moree, and I think there was 3 boys in the car, and there was a 14-year-old driving, and he actually caused a really bad accident, and the person that was involved in the accident ended up dying. And they actually just posted a thing from the police's eyes, like how they see it, and it was actually a really it actually made a lot of sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's
yeah, no, it's really bad, and that's the thing as well. A lot of Aboriginals really want to learn their old language, do stuff that involves being around nature, actually being involved, and like
being
a
able
lot
to
of the
connect with the
times
actual culture.
and a lot of the times they're just shunned and pushed away, and we'll deal with you later.
Yeah.
And then you have the stigma of people just they're just stupid, you know what I mean? Like that's a huge part of it. A lot of people just think that they're talking to a stupid person, when in reality a lot of them aren't stupid, man.
100%, yeah.
Like they actually have a lot of smarts, and you can learn a lot of things from being around a lot of Aboriginal people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Learning as much as you can, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
We've got a family friend that was old family friend that was Aboriginal, and she used to love sharing stories and showing us, teaching us as young kids, everything about the bush and finding food and how to survive, and she used to love it and absolutely thrived on it.
Well, I'm not even gonna lie to you. A lot of the people that we taught when we were doing the Aboriginal parks were white people. They'd come in and they'd learn about how to make lemon myrtle tea, stuff like that. And like, as I said, learn about small plants that you wouldn't even think that you could eat.
Yeah.
But you can. Like, there's actually this native plant that has a lot of spikes, and it just looks like a tuft of really sharp grass. And on the spikes forms the seeds, but they also are basically a berry. And when they're ripe, they actually taste like a red apple.
Oh, interesting.
And a lot of them are, well, around where I am, it's very abundant. Like you see it basically all the time.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Hey, James, I've got a question for you. Well, I want more your thoughts, and please, anyone, feel free to chime in as well. This is quite a loaded term.
Yes.
And it kind of touches on what Edward mentioned, this idea of learned helplessness. What are your thoughts about that, just in general?
So I guess that falls back under, a lot of people treat them very, very differently, bro. Like, as I said, I'm from a small town.
Yeah.
Where as much as Aboriginal people don't really make up a lot of the percent of Australia, it's very, the percentage of Aboriginals here is very big, bro. Like when we went to school, it was like you're basically going to school with a room full of Aboriginals, and you get treated very differently to what they get treated, bro. And it's very disrespectful, and like people wonder why they do act out. So like learned helplessness, yeah, it is a thing, but I guess that falls under people not treating them correctly, and then not having the greatest home life because of how their parents were raised.
Can I get your help with something? So is someone, maybe they're being a little bit racist when they say this, they're just getting all this help and learned helplessness used in that way.
Okay.
What do I say to that person?
Well,
I feel it's awkward and I find it difficult to answer that.
Where is there proof that they just get utter help?
This is a very common feeling that
Yes.
Australians have, right?
Oh yeah,
So
that is their number
they
one
quite
thing.
often
Bro.
don't have proof of anything. It's just a
Yeah.
feeling people have,
Yep.
and I don't know what to say in response to it.
Yeah.
So you know what that falls under? Sorry.
I was just going to say, do the communities really want that? Do they want help? No, they just want to be themselves. And
It depends on the
Some
community.
do.
Yeah, in certain ways, the history and stuff like that, keeping them, yeah.
So, what was I gonna say? Where's the proof that Aboriginals get just utter help, nothing but help? There's no proof. The only proof is from smaller communities out in remote areas. Like per se, there's small communities out in Alice Springs. They do get help, and there's a couple of other places like in Western Australia and places like that that are very remote that do get help. That's where a lot of people get the mistake of, oh, you just get money handed to you. But also when you're coming into like a town situated group, that they see people driving around in nice cars, this, that. It's only because like finance.
Can I interrupt, James?
Yes.
Yes, sorry, James. Like I live in near the Coorong in South Australia, so we've got a pretty big area of Indigenous people.
Yep.
And just even in my findings of observation, I've noticed because they still, and I noticed that in the city they're very different to the ones that still live in country and on the land. But the ones on the land, they seem to live in their own little mob still. They stay within their families, like there may be 20 in a house.
Yeah, well, that's actually still, sorry to cut you off, but that's actually still in a smaller town area as well.
But my point of being is we look at that and we say, oh, they're well off, or they've got better cars, they've got this. But we've got to also realise that as a Solon generation, I think we owe them a lot.
We do.
Because we were trying to change everything, even their religion, because most of them went to Catholic, communes. So the way I see it, is their way of surviving is living in their cultural groups, in their families, in their mobs, and then sharing those resources. So they might be your payday, next day is James's payday. So, we all put together those resources.
Yes.
And then as a family, we can do better, or a community, we can do better for ourselves.
Yes,
that's also giving them a self-independence and empowering them more than we should be here criticizing them.
Yes.
I was
100%.
just going to add in, I don't know if it's, I could be completely wrong about this, but with what you said, I don't know if it's even, we're giving them more than, more because of the things that happened in the past. That's why they're all, bunched together and that sort of stuff. I think it's more because of the stolen generation and the amount of time that was passed, I think it influenced them and then emphasized for them to understand and then value family and relationships like 10, 20, 30 times more than what the average person does.
Yes.
That's what I think the reasoning is for why there's large, households with a large amount of them inside. I could be wrong about that, but
no, they really do love family, bro. That's one of the main
kinship
things.
Relationships are very, very different within Indigenous Australian culture.
Yeah, 100%.
They don't have a mother and a father and an aunt and an uncle. They have mothers. They have fathers, which are all within the family line. So, and they treat, their biological cousin or aunt as being their brother and sister, and or the family ties are much closer.
Oh yeah, the family ties are very, very strong, and I can attest to that because I've
Married
literally that, and
Yeah.
I've lived around it my whole life.
Yeah.
Literally, and this is what a lot of people don't understand as well. See how Cert said it's not that long ago, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. I'm only 27. Going back around 20 years, my auntie was still living in a shack. And they didn't get a house until I was like 10 years old.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you for that. All right. So I heard a little bit towards the end. Sounded like a very, very good conversation. So we'll just cover the questions now. How can understanding Sarah's cultural background support her healing? As a support worker, what do you think? Why do you think it's so important to understand Sarah's cultural background?
Because we can't just, as much as we can treat them the same, we can't just treat them the same because they have a different cultural background. So we have to understand what they went through, how they live, how they do things. We can't just treat them like your average Joe Blow sort of thing.
Yeah, perfect. Edward?
I brought it up during the conversation, but my reason, my answer for this question was it not only ties with her, but just a majority of Aboriginals, because of the stolen generation, it alienated them because it alienated and then not objectified. It made them be perceived to themselves as objects because of how the way they were treated. You know, being picked up from their villages and huts and families and taken away and then used for whatever things that they were used for. It made them see themselves as objects. So, and worthlessness. And so when you build that connection of, hey, you know, even if it's just a small amount, or hey, I want to know about your culture if you have anything to tell, or anything at all, it provides them that clarity of, wow, I am human because I have value, because they want to know what, you know, what happened in my life, what, you know, what things that occurred, you know, about my past, about my culture. It provides them more connection and sense of humanity with society in general. So then they don't feel as alienated.
Thank you. Very good. I'll take one more. We'll go with Cert.
Yeah, I think at the heart of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, at the heart of it is building a foundation of understanding and empathy for the client, this case being Sarah. So when you have that understanding, you can be more, you know, empathy driven. Yeah.
Excellent. So understanding Sarah's cultural background is very important as it acknowledges the deep connection between her identity and her heritage. Recognizing her cultural roots can be a way of validation about her experiences and feelings, helping her to restore a sense of pride and belonging that was disrupted by her removal during the stolen generation. The Aboriginal people just didn't suffer the stolen generation. They've been suffering since the first settlers came in 1788 or whenever it was. They've been massacred. They've been in wars. They were only considered as human beings in 1964, where they got the right to vote in Australia. So before that, they were considered as fauna. They didn't get any hospital cover, any social services. They weren't allowed to go participate in education, in mainstream education. Their children were forcibly removed. Their daughters who were taken from their families were forcibly married to white men. And That only stopped in 1964 when they got their rights to vote, and they've been struggling ever since. And imagine a group of people who've been suffering all that damage to their culture and their people. We can't expect them to turn a page and have the same life expectancies, the same educational levels as mainstream Australia, because it's only been 60 years since they only got their voting rights. And since then, they've still been fighting for their basic human rights. And they've just recently after reconciliation and the Sorry Day and all that sort of stuff, it's starting to turn towards their way, but they've still got a long way when it comes to recovery as a community. And we also got into something called intergenerational trauma, where this trauma from that goes back to the first settlers affects all the whole community, even the young people who had nothing to do with the stolen generation, but they can see their parents, their trauma. They hear the stories. They don't know too much about their heritage because it's been taken away from them. They've lost out of the 400 Aboriginal languages. There's only probably about 50 of them that are surviving today. So they've been completely destroyed and they're trying to recover. James?
I was just gonna say that a lot of the languages are coming back with like as of today. Like have you heard of the Last Chance school?
No.
Okay, well it's a small school up on the mid north coast. It's called Macleay Vocational College, and what it does is like for kids that are either struggling with school and just do not fit in, so they end up getting suspended vicariously and just end up being on the streets. They end up taking them in. The owner of it, Mark Morrison, he goes around and he gives food and all that to the struggling families, and he actually integrates in a couple of the elders to help bring back the language of the
Excellent. Very good.
Community.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, so now we spoke about the understanding her cultural background and how we can support her in healing. What do you think are some of the strategies that we can help her reconnect with her culture and community? Mickey?
Hello, can you hear me clearly?
No, I think there's an issue with the microphone, Mickey.
Okay, how about now?
A little bit better. Yeah, a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, I think I just have a couple of ideas. So firstly, I would say um maybe we can find those kind of community group because from my understanding, this is my personal like feelings about the Aboriginal and the first one. They are very artistic, right? And as from what we can say, a lot of their paintings is very artistic, and also their culture is mainly like storytelling. So I think all those kind of the way they kind of um, lying in that culture is can be a very good to be. It can be very good if you can incorporate that the language and the artistic part into the therapy. So, for example, like art therapy, I think there's a therapy we use in the transfer. I think art therapy because I think this can be really um, tightly connected to the Aboriginal culture. And secondly, I would say I don't know we offer the kind of service or not, but because in this discussion, Sarah feels very like frustrated because he lost her identity, right? So I'm not sure. Maybe we can rebuild a kind of family connection if possible, I think there will be some online services about family tracing services. I'm not sure, but could be a million chance this this kind of service probably can connect to her with her biological family. Maybe it's not a like a like maybe it's not a very good chance, but maybe even a tiny bit. If we really find out her biological family, I think it's gonna be really helpful. And also we can offer the service or to facilitate the reunions, something like that.
Excellent. Yeah, they're very, very good initiatives. That last one about connecting them with the biological families, there are a lot of community organizations, government-led organizations who actively try to reconnect individuals from the stolen generation back to their biological families. In a lot of cases, they're pretty successful as well. So that is a great initiative. We'll take one more. Tony?
Okay, so this is just some, I used to work with the Narrandjeri tribe on the Coorong, and as part of our reconnection to their culture was what we called a life story book. So we would actually start with like their cultural lands, their values as that culture, stories from the elders and Dreamtime and stuff like that. Include places like James was saying to get bush tucker, their food, their drinking water, you know, just so they can reconnect to their land, even if they can't always reconnect to the actual peoples themselves, because some like I said, we're on the Coorong and we work with Torres Strait Islanders and stuff like that. So you can't always reconnect them to the people, but you can always reconnect them to their land.
Perfect.
And
yeah,
so we found that quite beneficial, that they at least knew where they were coming from and where they belonged.
Of course, yeah. So participation in programs like you're talking about, community-run programs that focus on arts, language revival, traditional crafts, cultural ceremonies, will help people like Sarah to reconnect with their heritage. Definitely. Yeah.
So we did all that, like including smoking ceremonies and you know, welcome to country, all that sort of stuff. And they would learn the arts and traditional dot paintings. The boys would learn didgeridoo and things. So they learned their cultural respect as well. Like as a woman, you can do this. As a man, you do that. And send them on their initiations and things like that. So
Excellent. Thank you for that. So my primary role is I work in youth justice. I work in one of the youth justice centers. I'm one of the managers in the correctional center. In my unit, it's the induction unit. So I take all the new young people who are admitted into custody from the court or from the police, and unfortunately, majority of our detainees are Aboriginal. 50% are Aboriginal. I had a young person who was from that area. It's the Darrick mob in Western Sydney, and he was very connected with his heritage, the storytelling. He had a lot of knowledge, and he also knew a little bit about the language and the stories about that area. And in his storytelling and his culture, there were stories about ghosts and bad omens and feelings in that correctional center in a particular area. And he was refusing to go into his room on my unit because of that. So thankfully for us, we've got identified Aboriginal caseworkers and mentors that we can go back to and speak to them. And they said all we need to do is run a smoking ceremony, bring an elder in from the community and do a smoking ceremony in the room. And that way it will purify the room, which we did. And that helped the young person a lot in adapting to his new setting. So what I'm trying to say is it's very important that we have knowledge about the Aboriginal culture, their heritage, their history, the suffering, and also lean on to the experts as well when we don't know anything. Ask questions about ask questions from the professionals from the Aboriginal people who know their culture and who know what to do in these circumstances, and work together in collaboration in resolving issues. James?
So I was just gonna say, because my chat isn't working at the moment, if any of you want to learn about some stories or even listen to some cultural music, Desert P Media on YouTube. They tell a lot of stories. They also, like, it's a media group. They go all over Australia and they work with youth in music and storytelling.
Excellent. Thank you for that, mate. All right. I'll cover one more slide and then we'll have a break. So let's discuss the concept of social inclusion and how it plays a critical role in recovery for individuals facing mental health challenges. So social inclusion is defined as the process of removing barriers that prevent people from fully participating in various aspects of life, such settings like education, work, and community activities. It's about creating environments where everyone feels valued, supported, and empowered to contribute in a more meaningful way to their society, regardless of their circumstance. The outcomes of social inclusion, as you can imagine, are very profound. So for individuals who are in the recovery stage, being included can significantly increase their own self-esteem. So it fosters a sense of belonging, which is a powerful motivator for personal growth. Feeling part of community helps individuals recognize their own worth and capability, which are essential components of recovery. Additionally to what I just said, social inclusion enhances social roles. So when individuals are actively engaged in their communities, whether through education, employment, volunteering, or even cultural activities, they are able to develop stronger sense of purpose and also their identity. So these social roles not only improve individuals' well-being, but also contribute to the strength and also the diversity of the broader community as well. So what we'll do now, guys, is we'll have a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and I'll try to cover one of the assessments together. So yeah, I'll see you guys in 10 minutes.
Yeah, good chat.
I just want to
Yeah, you
apologize.
too.
When you guys are having conversations, I'll have to cut in that. I'm just trying to cover as much content as I can. I'm not doing it because I'm not enjoying your conversations or anything like that.
You're good, mate. It's fine. It's all good.
Oh. All right. Have any of you guys covered this assessment yet? The one on the screen?
I'm currently doing it now.
Nice. Tony, you finished?
I just started this morning.
Very good.
Same. Yeah, I started it just before.
Nice. Tony, did you put your hand up saying you finished? Yeah, very good. Did you pass?
I haven't. I've just done this question.
Oh, okay.
I haven't. Yeah, I've just looked into it and.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What we'll do is I'll try to go through as many as I can, and then after we're done, I'm going to play the pre-recording that I completed for this unit. And during that time, you can stay and watch, or you can switch off Zoom and then work on assessments or do whatever you need to do for yourself, because these recordings will be sent to you tomorrow anyway. So if you don't want to stay back and watch the pre-recording, that's completely up to you.
Can I just ask, how many actual assessments are part of this unit? Because it says 4, but I've only got 3.
Let's have a look.
The fourth is a work placement.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got the written, research, a project, and the placement.
Ah, yep. Okay, perfect.
But I've got a suspicion this might be part of the. Let's have a look at this one. No, so this is. Oh, this is pretty fun actually. This is you got to rely on results of research to develop a promotional piece explaining the benefits of self-advocacy. Consider the needs of your target audience and use the format of your choice. It's up to you. Decide what decide, but some examples included. So you can create a brochure, poster, a digital story, animation, song, artwork, or a PowerPoint presentation if you like as well. Kurt?
Yeah, so I've just started the this course, and I've got a question about the time frame these assessments are expected to be done by.
So you can do them whenever. So I think you've got 6 months to complete the qual, or 12 months.
12
I think
months.
it's 12 months, yeah.
You got 12 months to do it, and it's because it's adult learning, it's self-paced. So they don't give you like assessment due dates. You just got to get all the workload pretty much done within the 12 months. So
Is that including work placement too?
Yeah.
Okay, then a follow-up question. Since this is related to what we're covering in class right now, what would you suggest best approach be? Like those 3 assessments that are not the placement, do those as the classes relevant to that come out? Is that the best way?
Okay, so
it depends on. Oh, sorry, man. You're right.
You go, Rainy. You go.
I find it depends on how much effort I guess you're going to put in. Like, you can keep up, or you can sort of just go at your own pace. It's hard to keep up, man. Like, it's hard to do like some of the assessments are really easy. Like I did one the other day. It was like 9 questions. I smashed it out in a couple of hours, but then like you've got other assessments where it could take you a couple of days, or 4 days, depending on the workload of the actual assessment is, and your time frame too. Like, a lot of us work full time, so like finding time to be able to keep up with each class that's going on, that's happening. It's hard.
Yeah. So I agree with that as well. What Hada recommend is when we're covering the units during our session. So I think this unit is covered over 3 weeks. So we recommend that you guys try to do all the assessments within that 3 weeks. There are some assessments you're not going to be able to do, such as the work placement. Now, the work placement assessments can only be attempted or completed after you complete 50% of the course. So you can only do your work placements until you've completed 50% of the course. So just leave that in the background and do it after you do 50% of the content. When it comes to role plays, there's a lot of role plays with this qualification. So I recommend don't leave them to last, because
Sorry. I just started doing them now.
Yeah, so it'll get daunting, and when it comes to the end, you've got about 15 or 20 to do, it's just going to create a lot of stress. So I recommend that as soon as you get a role play for a unit, try to get it done as soon as you can. Once you get 1 or 2 done under your belt, it gets pretty comfortable. If you got no one to do the role plays with, if you can't get connected to learners due to your work or your personal circumstance, you can always connect with SLO, or you can email me directly, and I can organize to do maybe 1 or 2 role plays with you, just to get the ball rolling, get you comfortable in doing role plays as well.
Yeah, I'd imagine if you left it to 15 or 20 role plays at the end, you'd be struggling to find a partner for it.
Yeah, so I've got a learner who left all her role plays towards the end, and she's done everything else, and she had to extend her completion time of the qualification by 3 months. So it does take a bit of time, because the actual role plays only take about 5 to 10, 15 minutes, maximum 15. But that's not the problem. It's about preparing for it, organizing a time with someone to do it, and then getting it assessed. If it doesn't meet a certain standard, then you got to redo it again. So that's why we recommend that you guys do it as we go along with the qualification. Rainy?
Yeah, just on the back of the 50% completion. So is it Vicky?
Yep.
Vicky elaborated last week that you've got to actually have 50% of all of your units done. It's not off your assessment. So if you do, you know, like you said, if you leave your role plays until the very end, then you're not gonna be able to do your placement because your assessments are all done, but your units actually aren't completed. So you've got to do, I think there's 15 units in the whole qual, and you got to do 8 before they'll let you before they'll, you know, try and get the ball rolling on the placement.
Right. So then doing the question portion of every unit is not going to be very effective or efficient.
It will be, as long as you so say if you have, like, I'm a sucker for it. I did it as well. Like, so you'd have, like, say you got four tasks in one unit, one, you know, and one of them is a role play. If you just do the 3 tasks that aren't a role play and leave it until you've got like so many role plays banked up, then that whole unit won't get passed until you've finished that one role play. So it's best to just do the 3 written questions or the research project, whatever it is, and then do the role play as well, because then that whole unit gets marked off as, you know, completed. So then that comes off your 50%. So you could do all the questions. You could do every one of the written questions, or the book, you know, whatever it is. You can do all of it until you, and then if you haven't done any of the role plays, then none of them units are going to be complete.
Excellent. Catherine?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if with the role plays, and I haven't looked at them yet, but I'm assuming one person's a client, one person's a support worker, or whatever. So for the assessment, does that mean you've got to play both the client and the support worker? So 2 different videos, or?
No. So so if it's just you, if it's you and a friend that's doing the role play, so you can get one of your friends to help you. So all you got to do is play the role that's being assessed, which is the support worker.
Okay. So if we team up with somebody else from the course to do it, we've both got to do the support worker role.
Of course, yeah. But there's going to be some role plays that going to involve more than 2 people. There's some that have up to 5 or 5 participants. So there's one, I forgot the unit, where it'll be you and 4 service delivery participants, where you got to present your project to them. So that's where a lot of our learners get hard to organize. So what I recommend is you guys to get connected with each other, and when them assessments come up, that you guys help each other as well. But if that doesn't work, you can always, like I said, get in contact with SLO, and they'll get you connected with a trainer, so someone like me. And the advantage with the assessors and the trainers is that we can play more than 2 roles. So if you guys can't find anyone, we can always make it happen and make some adjustment. All right, let's start on this. We've got about 30 minutes, so we'll cover as much as we can. So the first question for this assessment, so this is the written questions. Tarquin is 37, a teacher, keen guitarist, partner to Ruben, father to Billy and Stevie, and attends as many AFL matches as he can each year to support his team. He is also a person living with a mental illness. You have been working with Tarquin to develop his self-advocacy skills so that he can self-advocate for support from the NDIS. List 3 resources that Tarquin could access to assist him. So, yeah, so what kind of resources do you think we can suggest for Tarquin or Tarquin? Tony?
The first one I put down was his GP or psychiatrist or psychologist.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, GP, mental health professional, NDI specific resources. Excellent. Alona mentioned this before, NDIS local area coordinators, so LACs, and support coordinators to help him understand and navigate the NDIS, including how to prepare and submit his application. There's other advocacy services for people with disabilities, like the People with Disability Australia. There's another one called, let me just look it up. Yep, Disability Advocacy Network Australia as well. Like I said, there's mental health NDI specific resources, NDIS mental health access guides, and the Mental Health Carers Australia as well. And there's other websites, when you're doing your research, you can look into things to assist him with self-advocacy when it comes to NDIS. You can look into the Disability Advocacy Resource Unit, which is www.daru.org.au. You can look at Advocate as well. If you're typing Advocate on Google, it will come up. You can look through the National Disability Advocacy Program. So just type in the key words. So just type in disability and advocacy programs, and then you'll get some resources there. All right. Describe the policy framework that underpins your organization's work in supporting people to self-advocate. So what you got to do is go back and look at your own workplace and see what they do in terms of supporting people with self-advocacy. If you're not employed at the moment and you've got other commitments, you can look at your past jobs, or find something on the internet. Look for a company and look through their policies and procedures when it comes to supporting people to self-advocate.
We can use first access, yeah?
Yeah. You can also look at examples from frameworks such as the National Framework for Recovery Oriented Mental Health Services. They'll give you like an overview of the actual framework. You can look at state-based frameworks from your particular state or a local community group as well. Describe how the policy frameworks that you included in your answer 2 impact your practice in providing self-advocacy support. So this answer will stem from question 2. So when you answer question 2, then on question 3, you just got to speak about the impact on your practice when providing self-advocacy support. Give me one sec. So when it comes to this question, you can describe the impacts from your own practice of the policy framework, which should include in your answer things like recovery-oriented practice, respecting the client as their own expert, so all about independence and autonomy, supporting the client as the driver of their own recovery journey, supporting, not leading the client, as well as very important, and also assisting the client to identify their own needs and to make their own choices. And also things like self-determination, promoting the family, friends, and community as well to be part as stakeholders in their plan or their recovery journey. Describe differences between advocacy and self-advocacy. Anyone?
Well, advocacy is speaking for others, and self-advocacy is speaking up and representing your own rights and interests.
Yeah.
Is that?
So self-advocacy is usually a two-way process. So it's usually between the client and the individual or the organization. When it comes to advocacy, it will involve a third party to advocate on behalf of the client.
Okay.
So that will happen if the client is unable, due to their disability, they could be autistic, non-verbal, and they need someone to advocate for them.
Okay.
Describe the differences between, Mickey.
Can you hear me?
We can, yeah.
Oh, okay. I think the prime differences between the advocacy and the self-advocacy, probably as what they're saying, is lies in who is speaking, right, and or acting on behalf of whom. Is this from my understanding, is this the case?
I heard a little bit, but it's just your microphone.
Okay, so what I'm saying is the primary differences between the advocacy and the self-advocacy pretty much is about who is speaking or acting on behalf of which person.
Yeah, perfect. Correct. But when you're answering the question, you got to clearly, like, that's the difference, but you still got to explain what advocacy is and what self-advocacy is. Just don't leave it to the difference. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But definitely.
I have a question is, let's say if I'm not working in this industry counseling or NDIS, just based on the second question, because I just kind of missed what you were saying about applying the framework to the self advocacy. So
Which question was it?
the number two.
Describe the policy framework that underpins your organization's work in supporting people to self-advocate.
Yeah.
So here you got to describe the policy frameworks relevant to the organization that you work for and their approach to self-advocacy. Examples of some policy frameworks could be from the National Disability Framework or state-based framework, so from your particular state, or it could be from the website www.health.gov.au and National Framework for Recovery-Oriented Mental Health Services. So if you're working in health, for example, if you're working in a hospital, you can find something about self-advocacy or supporting people to self-advocate in terms of policy framework from health.gov.au. If you work in disability or youth services, you can look at NDIS or the National Disability Framework.
If I work in, let's say, a childcare center,
Yeah.
so let's say, how do I look for the policy frameworks to supporting the people?
Yeah, it should come. Oh, let's have a look. Child care. So there's this website I found, raisingchildren.net.au. Looks like they cover up to preteens as well. And there's some self-advocacy for children, what is and what important, self-advocacy skills for children. So yeah, you just got to do some research online and the information, you should be able to find the information.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, all good. All right. I think we were up to 5. All right. Describe the differences between advocacy and self-advocacy and the other forms of client representation listed below. So when it comes to negotiation, advocacy is different to negotiation, Although there are usually elements of negotiation in the advocacy process, in a negotiation, two parties are working to reach a solution or compromise. So which differs from advocacy, which describes the process of representing one party. So describe this to advocacy and solidarity and the other forms of child representation listed below. And then when it comes to mediation, can anyone have a go at that? So describe the difference between advocacy and self-advocacy with mediation. Rainy?
Yeah, so my take on that would be like to mediate, but sorry, to either mediate on behalf of, or just mediate a meeting to come to a conclusion.
Mm.
Is that
Yeah. Yeah, so advocacy or self-advocacy is a process of representing the needs and the rights of one party.
Right.
So we already agree what needs to be done. We're representing them, advocating for them.
Yeah, so
And
then you just mediate the outcome, wouldn't you?
yeah, and mediation, in the other hand, is about resolving a specific problem. So it's not about advocating, it's about getting two people together and trying to resolve a problem by mediating. Yeah. Kurt?
Yeah, so I'm to understand, as a mediator, you're managing a problem with the client and a third party. And is this, in this context, are you doing like an equal representation in this mediation, or can it just change varied on context?
When you're answering this question, just in general, what mediation is?
Yeah, I was just wanting to know extra from your point of view. Like what would that entail? Like in terms of, as a mediator in certain situations, right? I could imagine a scenario where you're like maybe in a 50-50 sort of role between them, and maybe sometimes it's more weighted to the client. And I'm just asking if that is a real scenario.
I'll give you an example from my my primary role. So as a unit manager, I look after a group of kids. There's a lot of circumstances where I get young people who get bail, but who can't find placement in the community because they can't go back home and they've got to find a residential care facility. So I would advocate for him in finding a placement for him by speaking with community residential facilities and other organizations to find him placement, and I will advocate for his needs. When it comes to mediation, it would be something like if two young people in the facility, two young men, have a physical altercation. After the altercation, I have to speak with both of them and bring them together and do a mediation. And during that mediation, we're trying to come to a resolution where both of them can get along and move forward and go on with their lives. All good, Kurt?
Yeah, thank you.
All good. All right. Monica? Just on mute. You're just on mute, Monica.
Sorry. I was just wondering if that would be representing both as sort of one client sort of thing, like having both their interests at heart in that situation in the facility.
Yeah, so I'm technically advocating for both.
Yes.
But ultimately I'm trying to do a mediation between the two clients because I'm not taking anyone's side. I'm just to mediate and get them to speak about the problem at hand and try to come to a resolution. But when it comes to advocating, you're just looking after the interest of one client. You're pushing their agenda. So when it comes to, for example, case managers involved in NDIS, when they trying to get services or accommodation for their clients, they might be mediating with the services, but they're advocating in behalf of their client. So they're pushing their agenda, saying that they need this, they need these services because A, B, and C.
Thank you.
All good. All right. So the next one there is facilitation. Can anyone have a go at that? What's the difference between advocacy, self-advocacy, and facilitation? Okay. So facilitation is the process of helping a group to come to a mutual decision. So it's very similar to mediation. It is more about working with all parties rather than representing the needs and rights of only one party. So in terms of facilitation, with the mediator, they're trying to resolve the problem. In the other hand, the facilitator is doing the same thing. They're organizing the meeting, getting the two parties together, but they're not necessarily doing a mediation. They're just bringing them together and to facilitate the meeting, not necessarily mediate. And the difference between that and advocacy, again, advocacy is about representing your client's needs and pushing their agenda. Conciliation, can anyone have a go with that? What do you think that is, conciliation? Again, it's very similar to mediation. So it's about a process of helping two or more parties to come together to come up with a mutual agreement or outcome. So I guess the difference between that and a mediation is it involves two or more people. Karen?
I always thought it was a the kiss and make up one.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You've got to all come to an agreement that you're all being idiots, blah blah. And
yeah,
if
you're
you
right.
don't all if you don't all accept your faults, then you can't reconcile.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think conciliation is when they all agree it's time to make up and kiss. Yeah. Kurt?
Yeah, I think I'm struggling with not the answer to this question, but the difference between mediation, facilitation, and conciliation, because I might be using them interchangeably by mistake in the future. So if we could like clarify a little bit more for me, thank you.
Yeah, it's all good. So mediation is when you get, so you, as a mediator, you've got to you need to come out with an outcome. Your goal is to resolve an issue between two clients. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work, but your goal is to give them both a fair opportunity to speak and not take sides and try to come up with a resolution that will benefit both parties. Facilitation is similar to mediation, but it's not about a result. It's just about organizing that setting. So bringing two parties that disagree or agree and just bring them together to speak about something and not necessarily being involved. You could be involved, but you don't necessarily have to be. Conciliation, like Karen said, it's more like the happy ending. So it's the last part of the mediation. We know it's about getting two people who are gonna resolve the issue and move on, and it could involve two or more people or two or more parties. I think that's the best I can answer that for you.
Yeah. So just to parrot back that, so I've got it.
Yeah.
Mediation is about helping, being the conduit to two parties coming to a compromise with each other. And is that the word compromise? Yep. Facilitation is just by arranging it. So talking about it as like what the goal is. Goal, mediation, have the two parties come to a compromise. Facilitation, giving them the opportunity to compromise, but not necessarily having that as the end goal. Then conciliation is maybe like that final step of mediation where we've now resolved and had that mutual agreement. All right, sweet. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, describe the differences between self-advocacy, group advocacy, and advocacy support agency services. So here, how the answer should be structured is that you guys describe the differences between self-advocacy, group advocacy, and advocacy support agency services. So I would explain a little bit about each one, so define each one, and then just talk about the differences in the end. So again, self-advocacy is the process of a person representing their own interests and the needs and rights with the aim of achieving a particular goal or outcome. A group advocacy is the process of a group of people working together to represent common interests. So a community group going to the local government and talking about an issue that they want to raise with them as a group. Advocacy support agencies will sometimes advocate on behalf of individuals or groups. So it could be a law firm, or could be a community center that a local neighborhood has gone to a community center saying this is our problem. There's too many, there's not enough pathways in our neighborhood. Can you guys advocate for us to the local government? Seven, assisting clients to self-determine the appropriate advocacy option for them informs the type of support that you will provide from that point forward. Describe the strategies that you will use to support clients in making that decision. Tony?
Can I just go back to the advocacy support agencies?
Yep.
The previous question.
Uh-huh.
So are they to advocate for the self advocacy, or like group, like does someone go to them?
So the advocacy support agency can advocate for both group and for the individual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All good. Assisting clients to self-determine the appropriate advocacy options for them informs the type of support that you will provide from that point forward. Describe the strategies that you will use to support clients in making that decision. What do you guys think about that one? So with this question, you need to describe the strategies that you will use to support clients decide between self-advocacy, group advocacy, and advocacy support agency services. And when you respond to the answer, you must address the following points, which are working with the client to build a shared understanding about the advocacy issues, building a shared understanding about the advocacy choices available to the client, and supporting the client to access information about each advocacy option. So in a nutshell, just got to explain to the client the three different options that they have, speak about the advantages and the disadvantages, and what is the best way forward for them when it comes to the options of advocacy. Okay, May is 57 and is an architect, enthusiastic gardener and cyclist, loves to travel and has just returned from a trip to Egypt with her husband. She's enjoying spending time with her new grandchild. She has also recently been diagnosed with an early onset of Alzheimer's disease. May has always been fiercely independent and until now has been in excellent health. She understands that as her disease progresses, she and her husband will need to increase increasing amount of support, but in maintaining her independence and self-determination is extremely important to her. She is tackling her fight head on and is doing as much as she can to gather information and to understand the resources available to her. She has asked you to work with her to help her decide which advocacy option is most appropriate for her. So A, which of the advocacy options that you discuss in question 6 would you advise Mel to consider? What are your reasons for that recommendation?
I think it's clear that the self-advocacy option would be the way to go, as it's the writings made it very clear that she's independent and, you know, probably would not maybe appreciate help from others, like the group option or the agency option. So probably the self-advocacy option is one she would take.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's spot on. Tony?
I also thought the self-advocacy option, only because it's also stating that she's still clear of mind and can determine for herself that those options, like she's going to need help in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So she can still make choices for herself at the moment.
Excellent. Kurt?
Yeah, so I know this is probably like the wrong answer, but in that situation, I would probably be advising Mai to consider having that option available in the future. Is that a fair response to that? Because I would be advising, look, you need to put these in preparation for the future if things get worse. But for now, the self-advocacy is good, but be prepared for the future.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can provide all the options that you can possibly provide the client. And the option of advocacy groups or assistance would be an option. But again, we remember we got the first point of action for us as support workers is to promote independence, autonomy, and choice. So first would be, yes, self-advocacy would be the first option, but you're right. You can also say, all right, if you struggle with that, we can always come back and speak about other options when it comes to advocacy.
I have another follow-up tougher question, not relevant entirely to this question, but say there is a client that is definitely needs extra assistance, but is being very resistant to it. How would you or have you dealt with situations where it's not in their best interest to maintain that, like maybe self-advocacy and really the right thing is to get people to advocate, like the communities.
Yeah.
So how would you approach that? Is that
It's all
something
about
that we need
it's
to
all
do?
about your sales approach. It's how you
Right.
because at the end of the day, it's up to the individual because it's up to them. We can only provide options and strategies and things that we recommend for them to do to improve their situation.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's up to them to take that on and to agree to the plan.
Yeah, I need to clarify one thing. So as long as we're operating within the best interest of the client, is it okay then to, suggest a move away from self-advocacy to more help and assistance? Is that appropriate? Is that okay to do?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just checking. Thank you.
Yeah, if you're dealing with a young person who's smoking or doing something that's risky, it's all about he wants to be independent, he likes to take for himself. But you've come to realize that he might need extra support. You can strongly suggest, I think you need this sort of support because it's not good for your health. You've seen what's happening in the last 6 months. You haven't stopped smoking. It's getting worse. Your health's getting worse. I think we should look at other avenues as well. But again, it's their choice. Catherine?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines because I've recently had a client who's very unwell, but is not being happy with the treatment they've been getting and really wants to sort of go gung-ho and I'm going to take this fasted out and everything. And to me, it's, well, you've got to consider the mental energy that's going to be involved in that sort of going down that path of advocacy and fighting the system and things. So would that be a fair consideration to say, well, you know, at the moment you're still very early in recovery, maybe you need to put your energies into getting yourself, you know, further along your recovery path before you start going down that advocacy? Would that be a fair consideration?
Of course, yeah. It's your job to provide them with the best option and what you think is going to be best for them. That doesn't mean you're trying to persuade. It doesn't mean you're doing what's is best for them. Yeah, I know what you guys are saying. I think you guys are saying there's a fine line between giving people advice and strategies and persuasion as well. Like you don't want to you don't want to seem to be like you're persuading or trying to get them to agree with what you want. End of the day, we want them to agree and understand why we are recommending the certain advocacy options. As long as you explain to them and they agree to it, then that's fine. All right. How would you help May identify her needs?
You communicate with her, ask her questions, see what problems she has with, like her concerns with maybe, future health problems. And you just go through all of that and one by one and assist her, come up with solutions. Yeah,
excellent. Asking strategic questions, using effective communication skills like active listening, collaborating with May as well to build a shared understanding, and working towards goals. When we're building goals with the client, it's important that we get them to lead the conversation when it comes to goals. Obviously, we're going to chime in and give them assistance in areas that we think they should be targeting, but we've got to find a way for them to lead that conversation because, again, it's all about advocacy, self-advocacy, self-determination, and all that sort of stuff. What about C? Where can May seek information on her rights? What are some of the reputable organizations she can look into? So she can go to the community legal centers, legal aid, all that sort of stuff. Tony? Just on mute, Tony.
Sorry. There's also the Alzheimer's Association or Dementia Association, the national framework, once again. And just knowing her rights. And yeah, that's part of our job, I think, is advocating, is knowing her rights as a person with this condition.
Perfect. Catherine?
Sorry. Would the health ombudsman in each state be a source of information for her?
Perfect. Yep. Government agencies which ombudsmen are connected to, definitely. So with this question, there's a lot of right answers, but the answers that we're looking for this question have to include things like human rights organizations, legal centers or organizations, government online sources, and also human rights convention, all that sort of stuff. And the one that Catherine recommended as well is one of the answers we're looking for. So something to do with government agencies and groups like the Ombudsman's Office and that. All right, we'll cover one more and then we'll have a 5-minute break. Define the term mandatory reporting as it applies to the health and well-being of children and young people. Kurt.
Yeah, all right, I'll have a go. When you identify something that breaks policy and or procedure, you report the infraction to your appropriate supervisor. Does that cover it all? Is there something extra?
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
Just a bit more.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah. James?
Is it assessing a situation to see if to see where it's at the best I can't think of the word right now, the best outcome for both parties.
You can be, yeah. You're on the right track. Yeah. Rainey?
So my understanding on mandatory reporting is if a child is, in danger of sexual assault or assault, then it's our job as a support worker to report that to the authorities, and yeah, obviously going up from your supervisors and your managers of your organization and just following policies and procedures in that.
Spot on. Perfect. So when it comes to mandatory reporting, we've got a federal legislation, and then each state and territory has their own legislation. They are very similar. So about 95% of the legislation is very similar, but there's a little tweaks and differences in each legislation, but they pretty much portray the same message. Karen? We'll just get one more. Karen?
Yeah, in New South Wales, we have a mandatory reporting guide, which outlines when we must mandatorily report.
Yeah.
So this is called the MRG.
Yes. The tree.
And outlines, yes, it outlines who is a mandatory reporter, and that includes us as support workers. And if a person has concerns about the safety, welfare, and well-being of a child for any of the following reasons: the basic physical and psychological needs of the child or young person are not being met through neglect. The parents or caregivers have not arranged necessary medical care for the child or young person. We've recently seen that case up in Queensland where the young girl died after not being given her medication. The parents or caregivers have not arranged for the child or young person to receive an education, or aren't willing to make their children go to school. The risk of physical or sexual abuse or ill treatment, so one speaks for itself. Parent or caregiver behaviour towards the child causes the risk serious psychological harm, such as emotional abuse. Incidents of domestic violence as a consequence, a child or young person is at risk of serious physical or psychological harm, and that's the family domestic violence. We are mandatory reported if they witness it.
Yes. Excellent.
And the child was subject to a prenatal report.
Thank you very much, Karen. Yeah, thank you. We'll get one more, Tony.
Oh, sorry. So my understanding of mandated reporting, and I've been in this situation before, is unlike duty of care where it's common law, and that's just your own basis of, protecting people. Mandated reporting is actually a legal requirement, and it's not just for children, it's for anybody, elderly, disabled, anyone that's maybe put at risk through a carer for the elderly. So it's anyone that will be put at harm or risk due to someone else's behaviour or actions. So that was my understanding of mandated reporting, to mandate those things that you see or hear that puts another person at risk or in danger.
Yeah, so it's usually involving children, young people, and vulnerable people in our society.
Yeah.
When it comes to mandatory reporting. So if these groups or people or see something that's wrong, that is reportable, like child abuse, neglect, or suspected child abuse and neglect, or any sort of crime, and you work within these fields of youth care, disability, policing, hospitals, there's a whole list of them in each legislation, you are required to report that neglect or crime that has been committed. All right, Monica?
Just a quick one. A family member was in a mental institute, and it's just hearsay. But who would I speak to if I felt like it's part of my obligation to come forward? But I haven't seen or witnessed anything myself. Would I be able to forward it, and would it actually be acknowledged or followed up with?
Is it mistreatment, neglect?
Yes.
Which elderly home or?
No, a mental institute.
I would report it to the senior doctors or the senior.
No, but what if they're at fault?
Oh, then I would go above them and go to the hospital administrators, and then straight after that, don't even wait for it and go straight and report it to the police.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if I don't live in the state, but it occurred in a different state? Would it be?
You can still call the police. You can still call the police for that state. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If it's a crime.
Is there a number to or an address? Like, is there a number to a place where I could actually go further with it if I proceeded?
So if it's an actual criminal offense, I would report it to the police. If it's it's a hard one because I don't know what
it is, because it's sort of cultural as well, like what we were discussing before. So it is something, and I just wanted to know what would my avenues be.
Yeah, if it's got to do with racism or cultural discrimination or anything like that, you could look online, look for advocacy groups that support that in them communities, that's a hospital or health patient, and you can go from there. There will be government websites that will provide assistance as well and lead you on the right direction. Usually when it comes to health, there's with each state they will have ombudsman's office. If you make a complaint to the ombudsman office, they will react within 24 hours.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All good. Tony?
This is just to help Monica a bit. In South Australia, we have, of course, the first point of complaint is directly through the complaint procedure at the hospital. And then the second, if they don't give you satisfactory outcome, is go to the Chief of Psychiatry. So that's in South Australia, who overruns all the psychiatric hospitals and workers and whatnot. So that might be an avenue to look at.
Thank you. Kurt?
Yeah, to what Monica was saying, I don't know if this is still like an avenue that you can take. And I just want to double check. There's official visitors that come to these hospitals, like psychiatric wards, and they come there for the client to speak about things like this so that the official visitors can advocate on their behalf. So that might still be an avenue. I don't know though.
Yeah, it could be, yeah. There will be official visitors that visit the hospital. I know there is in New South Wales. I'm not sure about the other states, but yeah. All right. James? All
So I
good?
was going to say, what about the Australian Human Rights Commission? You can go on their website or give them a call to lodge complaints as well.
Definitely. And that will lead you onto the right avenue as well, the right people to contact, or they'll get them to contact you.
Yeah, I'll put in the chat for you. There you go.
Thanks, mate. All right, we'll just get one more, guys. Just running out of time. Megan?
Hi, sorry. I just wanted to double check that I had the right, or not the right answer, but was on the right track with question 9.
Yep.
I have written down that mandatory reporting regarding children and young people apply when you suspect or are informed there has been a threat to someone's health or safety, including neglect or sexual abuse.
Perfect.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Good work. All right, guys. So now what I'm going to do is play the pre-recording of this session. Like I said before, I'm more than happy for you guys if you want to leave and work on assessments or do your own thing. That's fine. I'm just going to play this for you guys so you don't have to wait till tomorrow for the pre-recording and have to watch it spend another hour watching pre-recordings. So I'll play it now. If you're going to leave, I'll see you guys next week. If not, I'll see you guys after this.
No worries. Thank you, mate. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Hello, everyone. My name is Chyan. We're here to cover session 2 of unit CHCMHS008, promote and facilitate self-advocacy.
Monica.
So self-advocacy is a very important skill that empowers individuals to take control of their own lives, particularly in areas like healthcare, social services, and education.
I'm not very.
Now, in this unit, we'll learn how to support people in expressing their needs, making informed decisions, and ensuring their voices are heard. As support workers, our roles go beyond simply providing assistance. We're here to empower individuals by encouraging them to speak up for themselves, navigating complex systems, and advocate for their rights and choices. Whether it's helping someone with mental health challenges,
what did you need help
express their concerns, or ensuring they
No, it's
understand
all
the
right.
options.
I just because I'm not quick with answering, so I'm just behind. I'm at number 5.
Oh, don't be silly.
Yeah.
Okay, which one?
Mediation.
Guys, can we just stay on mute while the recording's on so everyone can have a chance to listen?
Yeah.
Thank you. Self-advocacy is about building confidence and independence. So in this unit, we'll look at things like the importance of self-advocacy in promoting dignity and independence, how to identify and address the barriers individuals may face in advocating for themselves, practical strategies for facilitating self-advocacy through active listening, providing information, and supporting decision-making, the ways in which you can guide individuals to become more confident in the advocacy, both independently and with your support. So before we start, I just want to show recognition to the traditional owners of the land. In the spirit of reconciliation, Hattah Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and the connection to land, sea, and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live, and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrows for personal, spiritual, and cultural costs of the sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respects to all First Nations people and acknowledge elders past, present, and emerging. Okay, so before we carry on, there are some videos that are part of each PowerPoint presentation. Unfortunately, we can't play them during our recorded sessions due to copyright infringement laws. But if we have time during our live sessions, we'll play them then, or you'll get a copy or you'll get an email sent to you that will have a list of links that will be provided to you guys for you guys to watch in your own time. I encourage you guys to watch these videos as it will further enhance your understanding of the topic in hand as well. So here, I'd like to highlight two key resources that can provide essential support for both carers and the individuals seeking assistance with mental health issues. So the first one there is Carers Australia. What do they offer? So Carers Australia provides a wide range of support and services for those who care for individuals with health conditions, disabilities, or mental health challenges. If you're working with family members or someone you support in this capacity, Carer Australia can assist with practical guidance and emotional support. And the contact information is there on this on the screen. Carer Australia is an excellent resource for connecting with support networks and understanding the services available for both carers and those that they support. The next one there is Mental Health Australia. So Mental Health Australia is a consumer advocacy organisation that focuses on improving mental health services across the nation. They offer mental health guide and also checklist, which can especially be helpful for consumers applying for the National Disability Insurance Scheme, NDIS. Their resources can guide individuals through the application process and ensure they have the necessary information to advocate for their needs. The contact information there, the website, is on the screen as also. All right. Now let's explore an important topic regarding mental health. The recognition of mental health disorders as disabilities and the role of NDIS in supporting individuals with mental health challenges. So the World Health Organization, WHO recognition, they officially recognize mental health as a disability. The recognition is crucial because it acknowledges that mental health disorders can significantly impact an individual's ability to function in daily life, just like a physical disability. In the past, care for mental health disorders in Australia focused mostly on short-term, acute or crisis hospital care. However, there was minimal availability for longer-term care, which left many individuals without the support they required to manage their conditions over time. The NDIS offers a recovery-focused package of support designed to assist people living in mental health disorders. This support enables individuals to achieve their personal goals, whether they are related to daily living, social participation, or employment. Advocates play a vital role in supporting individuals to navigate the NDIS system. They can assist clients in applying for NDIS, so helping individuals understand and complete the application process, reassessing plans, so reviewing existing NDIS plans to ensure they are meeting the individual's needs, and appeals. So if necessary, advocates can help clients go through the appeal process to ensure that their needs are adequately addressed. Now, this framework emphasizes the importance of empowerment or empowering individuals living with mental health conditions to access the support they need, achieve their goals, and live more fulfilling lives. Local area coordinators, LAC. Now, these play a vital role in supporting people with disabilities to access services, navigate systems like the NDIS, and work towards their personal goals. These coordinators are key in helping individuals live their lives the way they choose. So, what do they actually do when it comes to local area coordinators? They support goal setting. So they assist individuals in creating and working towards personal goals, whether related to education, employment, or community participation. They build capacity. So they help people with disabilities to develop the skills they need to make informed decisions and choices about their lives and their care. They help with accessing support, so they connect individuals to the services and the support they need to live independently and fulfilling their potential. Now, how can this help with NDIS? Well, the LACs provide guidance in understanding and accessing the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the NDIS. Their support include providing information about disability and the rights of individuals, helping individuals understand and access the NDIS to ensure they can make the most of the opportunities it provides, assisting in creating an NDIS plan, ensuring that the plan meets the needs and goals of the individual, helping with the implementation of the NDIS plan, so ensuring that the supports outlined are put into practice, and facilitating plan reassessments. So making sure that plans are up to date regularly to reflect any changes in circumstances or their individual goals. So here I want to talk about the key roles within the NDI system, which are the plan managers and the support coordinators. They're the key roles, and how they differ in supporting individuals with disability. So when it comes to plan managers, they are professionals who help individuals with financial side of the NDIS plan. They are responsible for managing their budget allocated for NDIS services, paying invoices for service providers, ensuring funds are used appropriately and within the guidelines of the NDIS plan. They offer guidance on how to best manage finances and maintain transparency. Essentially, plan managers ensure that the financial aspects of the NDIS plan are taken care of, allowing you to focus on accessing services and achieving your goals. Now, support coordinators, on the other hand, assist with in managing services, providers, and support networks. Their roles would include helping individuals find appropriate service providers, coordinating between various support providers to ensure that the services are integrated and meet the individual needs, offering assistance with the implementation of services outlined in the NDIS plan, and acting as a point of contact for individuals who need help navigating the system. Support coordinators are focused on service delivery, ensuring that individuals can access the services and support that they need to live independently and to achieve the goals that are set in the NDIS plan. In the NDIS system, plan managers play a critical role in managing the financial aspects of your plan, like we discussed just before. They ensure that your funding is well tracked and that payments are made efficiently to your service provider. Now, again, we'll just cover a bit more on what they do. So receiving invoice and pay providers. So a plan manager will handle the invoices from your service provider and ensure they are paid promptly for the service they deliver. They will track your support, monitor your spending, and ensure that you are using your NDIS funding appropriately. A plan manager submits claims through the NDIS portal, ensuring that the funding is allocated as per your plan's needs. They ensure that all claims within the pricing limits outlined in the NDIS price guide, which dictate the allowable prices for services and support on NDIS funding. They manage financial reporting, and they are experts in NDIS funding matters as well, so they can give further advice to the clients as well. Support coordinators are key figures in the NDIS system, like we've discussed, who help individual access and manage their services. So the plan managers look after the financial side, and the support coordinators look at the therapeutical side. So they're the ones that look for the services and initiatives for the client for them to access. So their role is focused on ensuring that people with disabilities can have access to the necessary supports and services to live the life that they choose. Now, what do they actually do? So they help choose support. They help choose supports and the providers. So they will assist individuals in selecting appropriate supports and service providers that align with their needs, preferences, and goals. They also coordinate and arrange any assessments required to determine the type of level of support and individual needs. Support coordinators will work closely with the plan managers to discuss how the funding in your NDIS plan will be allocated and ensure that it is being used efficiently. They connect the individuals with mainstream services like health, education, and housing. They help manage service agreements, which may include negotiations, changing or ending agreements with service providers. As the NDIS plan comes close to its end, they will help individuals prepare for their plans for renewal or review, ensuring that it reflects any changes in needs, goals, or their circumstances. So advocacy plays a crucial role in ensuring that individuals with disability have access to the services and support that they require. Now, the following organizations can assist in navigating the NDIS and advocating the rights of people with disabilities. So the primary community care services. This resource kit is designed to provide information and support to individuals and families navigating the NDIS, offering tools to help understand the process and access the services available. The National Disability Insurance Agency, the NDIA, is responsible for implementation and management of NDIS. They provide guidance and support to individuals applying for or enrolled in the NDIS, ensuring access to the services and funding available under the scheme. The National Disability Advocacy Program, NDAP, NDAP, the NDAP provides funding to advocacy organizations that assist people with disabilities to have their voices heard, represent their rights, and assist them in accessing services, resolving issues, and ensuring the participation in decision-making process. Okay. Okay, the Health Community Solutions Best Practice Framework. So this framework offers a structured approach to service delivery, ensuring that individuals receive the necessary support through tailored services. Below are the key components of this framework. So the first one is intake service planning. Now, during intake and service planning, the process begins with face-to-face or virtual phone meetings. These will include explaining the NDIS plan and support, accessing needs and creating a development plan for individuals, setting up support and referral for services, establishing service agreement, and conducting regular check-ins. Okay, now let's go on to monthly connections. So monthly connections involve regular engagement to ensure services are running smoothly and effectively. These will include things like face-to-face or virtual meetings with stakeholders, budget and plan audits to review and monitor progress, ongoing follow-ups with providers and support staff. Let's go on to regular contacts. So this is to ensure that the person receives continuous support through 24/7 availability for crisis and urgent situations via text or email, additional meetings and follow-ups as required, ongoing crisis care breakdown support and coordination, and securing additional NDIS funding if necessary through Section 48 request. And then reviews. So reviews are a crucial part of evaluating the effectiveness of support and planning future needs. These include report writing, evaluating progress against planned goals, and providing additional recommendations, conducting provider follow-ups, and preparing for review meetings with clients and the stakeholders. Mental Health Australia is the peak national non-government organisation in Australia, dedicated to advocating for the interests of the mental health sector. It is committed to improve mental health outcomes for all Australians. Now, Mental Health Australia was founded in 1997 as the first independent peak body in Australia. It was created to represent the full spectrum of mental health stakeholders and issues, ensuring a unified voice in the ongoing work to improve mental health services and awareness in Australia. The organisation advocates for better mental health policies, programs and services across the country. It works to ensure that mental health remains as a priority for both the government and the community. Mental Health Australia is made up of various organisation stakeholders, which include the national organisation representing consumers, carers and special needs groups, clinical service providers, including both public and private mental health service providers, researchers and state territory mental health peak bodies. Now, these members work together to strengthen the national mental health landscape and advocate for meaningful change to benefit everyone affected by mental health issues. For many years, individuals with mental health illnesses face significant challenges, including discrimination, prejudice, and stigma. These individuals were often overlooked, abused, and excluded from mainstream society. This systematic neglect has had lasting effects on their lives of those affected by mental health issues. Now, some of the key points to understand are: one, exclusion from society. So people with mental health illnesses were historically marginalized, which led to their exclusion from community activities, education, and employment opportunities. This contributed to a cycle of isolation and limited access to necessary support. Next, the role of advocacy. Advocacy plays a vital role in addressing the long-standing injustices faced by those with mental health conditions. Advocacy allows for individuals to have their voice heard, ensuring that their rights are recognized and their needs are met. Self-advocacy is particularly crucial as it empowers individuals with mental health conditions to stand up for themselves. It is a strategy for regaining control, fostering self-determination, and overcoming the societal barriers that have historically silenced them. And then empowerment and exclusion. So through advocacy and self-advocacy, individuals with mental health issues can work towards becoming fully participating in as members of society. So this approach not only redresses past wrongs, but also contributes to empowerment and also inclusion. The Richmond Report was a groundbreaking document that shaped mental health reform in Australia. Led by an individual named David Richmond, a public administrator for the New South Wales government. The inquiry focused on improving the health services for the psychiatrically ill and those with the developmental disability. Some of the key points of the Richmond report were, the first one was deinstitutionalization. So the report strongly supported the idea of deinstitutionalization. So again, so this aimed to move people out of large, isolated psychiatric institutions and into more community-based care. This shift was intended to help individuals integrate better into society, promoting independence and participating in everyday life. Another key point from the report was community-based care networks. So Richmond emphasized the importance of integrated community-based care networks. These networks would allow individuals to receive the support they needed while staying in their normal community environment, rather than being separated into institutional settings. And another key point was reducing reliance on psychiatric hospitals. Now, a key recommendation of this report was the parallel reduction of reliance on specialized psychiatric hospitals. This suggested that long-term care could be better provided through community support with psychiatric hospitals serving more as a last resort or for short-term crisis care. The 1980s marked a significant shift in how mental health services were structured and delivered across Australia. The reforms focus on improving accessibility, coordination, and integration of services to better support individuals with mental health conditions. Some key aspects of this reform included funding and training of frontline staff, so a focus on adequate funding for mental health services alongside training for frontline staff was seen as essential to ensuring quality care and support for individuals. This helps ensure that professionals were equipped to manage a growing demand for the service. Local responsibility for services. So mental health services were restructured to give local areas more responsibility in the delivery of services. This allowed communities to tailor mental health care accordingly to local needs and priorities, fostering more responsive and accessible care options. Next, coordination across government departments and agencies. So mental health services began to require coordination across various government departments and agencies to ensure more integrated and seamless care for individuals. Addressing social as well as health needs. So the reform recognized that individuals with mental health challenges often faced social issues alongside health issues. As a result, reforms sought to integrate social support systems with health services to provide more holistic care. Finally, bringing in the growing role of community-managed organizations. So community-managed organizations started to play an increasingly important role in delivery of mental health services. These organizations became vital in supporting people with mental health needs in their community, providing services that were more aligned with their lived experience of the individual. Let's talk a bit more about the Richmond Report. So the Richmond Report introduced important concepts that have significantly influenced the development of mental health services. One of the key focuses of the report was the emphasis on people's rights and the needs for normalization and integration within mental health care. So the report stressed the importance of recognizing and respecting the rights of individuals with mental health conditions. It advocated for the human rights of people with mental health illness, ensuring they were treated with dignity, respect, and equality in society. The report brought attention to the need for normalization. So the idea of idea that people with mental illness should be able to live in mainstream society with the same rights and opportunities as others. This also meant integration into community settings, allowing individuals to participate fully in society, cultural, and economic life, rather than being segregated or institutionalized. These ideas, which were initially raised by consumers and advocates, have significantly evolved over time and contribute to our present understanding of recovery in mental health. The focus now is not just on managing symptoms, but on empowering individuals to lead fulfilling lives as active participants in their communities. The Burdekin Report, led by Brian Burdekin, the first Australian Human Rights Commissioner, was a landmark document that examined the human rights of people with mental illness in Australia. The report was part of a broader inquiry into how individuals with mental health conditions were treated and the violations they faced. So some of the key points from the Burdekin report were prompted by early inquiries. So the Burdekin report was prompted by early findings from the National Inquiry into Homeless Children, Human Rights and the Equal Opportunity Commission of 1989, which revealed widespread issues regarding the treatment of people with mental illness. Another key point it raised was the violation of human rights. So the report found that the human rights of individuals with mental illness were routinely ignored or seriously violated. Now, this finding highlighted a systematic problem in how people with mental illness were treated by healthcare providers, institutions, and society. Another key point was that the ignorance and misconceptions. So the report pointed out the ignorance and misconceptions about mental illness were a significant factor in the violation of these rights. A common belief at the time was that individuals with mental illness could not recover, which led to discriminatory practice and exclusion from society. The report also identified several vulnerable groups which were more likely to experience discrimination and violation of their rights, which included Aboriginal people, children, people living in rural or isolated areas, and prisoners. So these groups were often particularly vulnerable to human rights abuses, making the report a critical step in recognizing and addressing these issues. One of the most important outcomes of the Burdekin report was a shift in the public narrative about mental illness. So moving away from stigma and misconception towards a more rights-based approach. This contributed significantly into the evolution of mental health policy and procedure and advocacy in Australia, focusing on empowerment, recovery, and inclusion. Okay, guys, that was 30 minutes of the pre-recording. There's 22 minutes left. The recording will be sent out to you guys hopefully tomorrow. So you can guys watch it from minute 30 if you wish. Just covers a few more of the elements of this unit. I can't play because the recording automatically ends at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to end the recording now. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you guys next week.